All across America and around the world, this is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Good day. I'm Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today here on Veterans Radio, and thanks for joining us. We've got some interesting stories for you. We always want to remind you you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. We just want to remind you that Veterans Radio podcasts are available on all your favorite streaming platforms, including rss.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Rees Across America Radio. So wherever you are, you can find us, whether it's on your mobile phone or your computer or your laptop, your tablet. But listen in to Veterans Radio Podcasts. We post something new every week, and you're going to find it informative. We want to welcome back, I should say, to Veterans Radio, Shelly Rood. She has been with us before talking about her transition from the military into civilian life. She was with the U.S. Army Reserves for about, 15 years or something as an intelligence officer. Shelly, welcome back.
It feels like home. Thanks for bringing me back, Jim.
Yeah, glad to have you. So Mission Ambition is LLC is the current life coaching and performance coaching that you're doing, leadership training. So before we get into that, we always like folks to, on Veterans Radio, kind of understand your military background of our guests so that they know they're hearing from somebody who's kind of the real deal. So why don't you tell us, recap for us a little bit your military career?
Well, the real deal, I'm not sure I'm going to measure up to that, even though I have been told that I am that. I do like to think of myself as the least of these when it comes to interacting with my veteran brothers and sisters. I did have a wonderful career in the Army Reserves. I had a little bit of active duty time in there, and I've served overseas. I have been to South Korea and some other incredible duty stations. But I'm not a combat veteran, and I don't pretend to be. And I love to be able to raise awareness for the fact that support comes in all shapes and sizes. A lot of the programs that we run that are funded even by the government recognize veteran in a way that's different from the federal definition of veteran, So for those of our guardies and our reservists that haven't hit that retirement mark and don't qualify for a lot of the veterans benefits once you get out, to me, it doesn't matter if you've served one day, that means that you've served.
Yeah, one of the things we've bumped into is people who have maybe not been at the pointy end of the spear in combat in Afghanistan or Iraq. Sort of, a reluctance to recognize their service and their veteran status, and it takes 9 people to support the one person who's at the tip of the spear. So you really, I think we're fighting uphill on this a little bit because of the way cultural media, TV, movies, kind of portray who's a veteran. You're going to be battle scarred. So I think it's good to get across that, no, there's a whole lot of work that's done by a whole lot of people to protect the nation's security. and they don't have to be at the pointy end of the spear. I think that's what you're referring to.
It is, absolutely. And, in the support world as well, in the veteran world, it's a giant butt sniffing contest, if you will. Like if we're all dogs and we just stare at each other's uniforms and we try to size each other up, and at the end of the day, we're not doing each other any favors as human beings. We're losing a lot of that interpersonal connection because we're just judging each other. And while that was a necessity when we were in service, when we look at our lives out of the uniform, it's taking its toll. And we're seeing that in the mental wellness numbers that are about our nation's military in a very negative way. So definitely appreciate the ability to even open the conversation about, let's just talk about what your service time was, and you tell me your experiences. I'm not here to judge you or to minimize how you did serve, but you also shouldn't be doing that about yourself.
So let's talk about one other issue before we get into mission ambition a little bit. Okay, military intelligence. Now, somebody out there listening right now and veteran radio land is making a joke about that being an oxymoron. So explain to folks what somebody who was in the Army Reserves did in the field of military intelligence.
I will. I absolutely will. And the answer is not very much. No, I'm just kidding. So, my experience was on the officer side. So as a tactical all-source intel officer, I did do a lot of briefings. And my position is really one of a team. And so I would have specialists that would be working in HUMINT and MASINT and IMINT, kind of analyzing the data at the raw data points. And then I had the opportunity to bring all the data together and help tell a story through that data. And then the story is what I'm able to then bring to the decision maker so that the decision maker can really say, let's go with course of action 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, as I say, it's we like to joke it's oxymoron, but it's absolutely necessary part of the planning process before you can point somebody or something in a direction. Yeah, folks, you may have heard in Shelly's earlier discussion this recognition of, hey, I wasn't the most important person in wearing a uniform. And that goes a little bit to one of your slogans with Mission Ambition, which is others over self, which I think tells us a lot right there. But talk to us about that catchphrase, that cornerstone that the company has a touch base.
So we landed on others over self as we were out in the community teaching personal and professional development. And we recognized that it wasn't enough to just shout the word values like a lot of the military does and a lot of individuals do. We wanted to say, if we're going to be out here coaching people to embrace something, what does that look like? And part of my military career towards the end, I always say I'm the intelligence officer that knows too much. I made a choice at the very end of my career to work on a branch transfer out of military intelligence and into the chaplain corps, because I truly recognized that what our nation didn't need was one more intel officer. There was a national shortage of chaplains, and there still is. And so I followed that path to move away from, learning data for data's sake and really getting into the hearts of the people around me. And because of that chaplain desire and that chaplain heart, it really feels natural to put others over yourself. And a lot of that does come from my followings of Christianity, which I didn't get into until I was nearly 30 years old. So we can talk about that, but please don't think that I'm some church baby. I did not follow any of that until I was well grown. And others over self has become, like you said, the cornerstone for what we teach. It's not just a phrase that we throw out there. It's something that we embody very, very deeply. And we even established a framework for how we teach others over self. And so, like you'd mostly do in the military, we deconstruct it backwards, right? So to reverse engineer others over self, we teach it in 3 phases. And the three phases are self over others. And so you really cannot go out into the community and make a significant impact if you don't know who you are at your core. And that is really where it all starts. It is the idea of putting on your own oxygen mask before you can help those around you. And what I see happens a lot of times with military people is we're so quick to jump into the others. We're so quick to say, sacrifice me, send me, I'll be the one, that we forget about the self. And the self tends to disappear over time. And at some point, you have to bring it back around, or you're going to go down a very, very dark and scary path.
I should mention to our veteran radio listeners, since we've talked to Shelly Rood a number of times, I skipped some of the normal intro that I do, but she has a bachelor's from Western Michigan University, where she participated in Army ROTC. We've done a number of programs recently on Western Michigan University's ROTC program. I think they just celebrated their 75th year, so we got a chance to talk to them about that history. You were on the marksmanship team there, which is interesting. But you went on much later in life and picked up a master's in ministry studies in 2022, so that you could make this transition you were doing from Intel to the chaplaincy corps. So it is there's a bunch of study that goes on besides just talking about it. You have to do the work to get yourself in a position to be of assistance to people. And along the way, you've picked up some really good partners in this in Mission Ambition. Talk to us about some of the other military leaders and coaches and trainers that are participating in this effort.
Absolutely. So Others Over Self is a collaboration of military first responders, frontliners that believe in the mindset and want to instruct. We have it deep in our bloods. We know what we're doing. A lot of military people come to me and they say, Shelly, just put me in front of a group and I would love to teach some content. So we've been able to be approached by General Doug Slocum, OD. For those of you that know him, he's one of the garrison commanders from Selfridge Air National Guard Base. We also have Laverne Santangelo, who's a retired major from the Army. We have Colonel Nancy Dakin. She's now retired. She was the 127th Wing Commander, female A-10 fighter pilot. Doesn't get any cooler than that. And Jim, these people are so unbelievably incredible when you get into their life stories, the decisions that they make, what goes into their day-to-day lives. And it's easy to gloss over that because we look at rank and we look at, maybe paychecks or what they're doing as civilians now. But if you can really take the time to get to know them and to really understand where they're at in life, you'll find that they have so much to teach us. The absolute most, I could talk to you about my team all day long because all I want to do is put a microphone in front of my team and let them talk.
Well, and they all have life experiences, different life experiences, from men and women, intel officers to fighter pilots, just a whole variety of life experiences, and families and kids. That all goes into making somebody comfortable that, hey, I want to have a leadership program with you, or I'm a business owner and I'm kind of burnt out. I need somebody to talk to. So talk to us about that audience that you guys serve.
We are a leadership and development training company. We have clients that are civilian. We have clients that are organizations. We have county level clients, and we also have state level clients. So one example of the organization or the people that we serve through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, we specifically focus on women veterans. So these are women who have served in the military in any capacity, and the service that we provide on behalf of the state is peer support services. And so it is literally about getting women veterans to be able to support each other. And the reason for that is because of the negative mental wellness issues that come with the veteran community. And so it is proven that peer support is one of the social ways that we can enhance our lives, and it bleeds off into other areas. And it's clinical without being clinical. It's the preventative measure before the scales start to tip into we need some type of crisis management or critical care. So it's really been just an absolute awakening since we started that type of work back in 2019 of what do veterans need, particularly veteran women, to be able to be healthy, to be able to lean into each other and not trigger each other. That's something that I've really noticed. And we've done a lot of work on that of why are women veterans triggering each other when we're gathering as groups. We're like lone wolves, and you can't put a bunch of lone wolves in a room and tell them to play nice. It just doesn't happen.
Well, and you're trying to, if I understand it right, you're trying to do this work before it's crisis time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we do, offer those resources. Of course, if you need help paying your rent, we've got some answers and some phone numbers. But that's not what we're here for, right? Like if you think of your grandmother or like some great aunt that just like deeply, deeply loved you, you're not going to call her at 2 a.m. to pull your car out of the ditch. It doesn't mean she doesn't love you. It just means that that's not her purpose in your life.
It's all about the right tool for the right job.
It absolutely is.
You've used a phrase a couple of times, and it's obviously meaningful in what you're doing. I want to have you expound on the phrase mental wellness. You don't use mental health. You use mental wellness. Why is that?
We need to get rid of the stigma. Truly. We literally are all mental. If you have served one day in the military, congratulations, you've got some mental wellness issues. And the more that we can just say that out loud and have it be part of our normal day-to-day conversation, the less stigma is going to come with that.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things I'm not sure veterans, military folks are necessarily trained up at a young age to reach out for help. Is that one of the things you keep bumping yourself into?
It absolutely is. And what we see is there's a change in gender even. If you're a male, then you tend to self-medicate through substance use and abuse. If you're a female, then you do tend to reach out for help, but your symptoms show up more like depression and anxiety. And so just having the data and the knowledge to see what these patterns can look like in different types of the veteran community positions us as a group at the large level to be able to make some actual change. And that really is something that our company has dug into over the last few years. Yes, we do have the peer support program, and yes, we are serving those women, but I don't think we've been doing it good enough, Jim. And so just this year, we kind of went into hiding last year and focused on the strategy. And I'm so excited to be able to announce to Veterans Radio today what is coming over the next year, specifically for our women veterans, because it is changing the landscape of how we're able to communicate with each other and how we're able to shift our landscape.
So tell us, what is coming?
When you think of what's available to women veterans, you think the traditional red, white, and blue, patriotic, and eagles. And what I have found is that a lot of women veterans don't hate that, but they also don't love it. So we did a lot of research and tried to figure out what was something that they did love. And we came up with the idea of wildflowers. Wildflowers are not planted, they just grow. And it depends on the territory, the terrain that they're in, how and when they bloom. And so if you think of a military woman, she is extremely unique, right? You don't just decide as a woman to wake up one day and join the military. Somehow you have been uniquely chosen for that purpose. And so if first of all, if we can get the women to love themselves for being a wildflower, and then get her to understand where and when she blooms the best, meaning when she feels like she really is just rocking out life, then she's going to love herself a lot more. And you know what happens? You're married, Jim. You know what happens to a woman who loves herself? She loves others a lot better, right? And I
Absolutely.
really think that that right there can change the landscape for the mental wellness of all of our veterans.
One of the challenges for anybody is continuous source of fundings right in business. And the area in which you're working is so dominated by um, state funding, federal funding, nonprofit funding, and particularly for support of women veterans. We've seen programs announced and then they collapse. We won't pick on anybody in particular where that happened last year, but how do you keep the momentum going forward when the funding landscape is challenging?
I'm going to make that deeply personal, and I'm going to tell you that when I got I got discharge orders from the military because I hit time and grade, and they told me just re-enlist straight into the chaplain corps. And I tried. And you know what, Jim? I don't medically qualify for re-enlistment. It's like a joke, right? Like, are you kidding? So for 4 years, I did everything I possibly could to get that waived and get back in the military. And I finally got like the definitive no at the highest level. And I remember being in my car at a stoplight and tears started falling, and I heard a voice inside of my head that said, Shelly, do you need to be a soldier to serve the soldiers? No, I don't. I don't need to be a soldier to serve the soldiers. And that right there is the mindset that carries me through every year. We've never had a negative year. What funding source do we use? The answer is yes. If somebody
All of
wants to
them.
donate, we've got a 501c3 partner. If I have checks for $1,000 that just show up in our mailbox because they believe in what we're doing, right? And so if you can be smart with your money and make sure that you're doing things legally, have really good partners that can handle the finance side of things, if you just can really believe in your heart that what you're doing is absolutely the best way that you can focus on that one mission, I really believe that God is going to provide. And I think that I know that our company has been a living testimony to that.
And you have a new affiliated project, a podcast of your own that you're doing. And before we run out of too much time, I want to talk about that weekly podcast, Hardcore at Ease. Tell us about the concept, what you're trying to accomplish, those sorts of things.
Yeah. So what do we want our listeners to become? We want them to be hardcore, and we want them to be at ease. And so Hardcore and at Ease is a series of interviews and guests that are hardcore in some area of their life, something that they're deeply passionate to and dedicated to. We've had professional golfers on. We've had New York Times bestseller Donald Miller on. We've had obviously some veterans on, but there has to be something that you are intensely dedicated to qualify as a guest on our podcast. But that's not enough, because you also need to be a phenomenal person. And that's where the whole idea of Be at Ease comes in, because we need to learn the secrets of how these people can stay grounded while being incredibly dedicated towards something. So that's Hardcore and at Ease. And that's
What audience are you shooting for with that podcast? There's so many of us podcasters out there now. What's the niche you're shooting for?
That's so interesting. And the people find me, right? If you identify with the word hardcore, you're like, yeah, you get it. You automatically get it. And if you don't, then it's probably not for you.
Okay. And this is a new project, a little under a year old, I think. So as you look forward, how does that integrate into what Mission Ambition is doing?
Great question. So it's all part of a master plan, because I am a intel officer. So what we're doing is we are writing books, and we are backing our way into the books. So what we do, the books are on women veterans specifically this year. Next year we will expand into something else. But for this year we are focused on our one thing, Gary Keller's one thing. And the one thing is encouraging healthy female friendships for women veterans. So we're writing 2 books this year. One of them is about the wilderness, And we define the wilderness in different ways. You have to have 3 out of the 5 requirements for what is the wilderness. But essentially, it's something where you've either never been there before, you never thought you would be there before, nobody has a training manual for where you are, or there is like a moral quandary, right? It's a no-win situation. So we're writing a book on the wilderness, and then we're also writing a book on the wildflowers. And the wildflowers are 8 very specific personalities of women veterans. And so what the plan is to write about the wilderness, write about the wildflowers, and it starts with the podcast. So we're interviewing and collecting all of this incredible content. Then that gets turned into our Substack, which is our newsletter. If you're on Substack, you can just look up Shelly Rood Substack, and you'll be able to get a hold of our newsletter. It's called Mission Wildflower. And then through the Substack, you can also get into a new launch. This is very cutting edge, and I can't believe that we're doing it, but we are. And we are launching a bot, and it is literally Digital Shelly. So come the end of March, the world is going to be able to have 24/7 access to Digital Shelly, which is a collection of all of my team's goodness. It's like if you were sitting in the boardroom with me and my team and all the resources that we have, and you could have a conversation with us. She can be your best friend. She can be your business mentor. She can help plan your veterans event that's coming up. And so that's launching at the end of March.
Oh, that's exciting. That is good and breaking news. You know, through your military career and the way it exited and didn't go the way you had hoped it'd go, I think it kind of leads maybe to this final question. You probably get asked by folks, hey, my my niece is thinking about going into the military. I just can't, I can't fathom that. You probably get asked to talk them out of it or talk them into it. What kind of questions along that lines do you get, and what kind of advice do you give?
Yes, exactly that. And I was just approached by someone when I used to work in broadcast television, and he said, my son's of the age and he's talking about it, and I don't even know what questions to ask him. And my first question, what I told him was, Rick, you really need to have a heart-to-heart with him. Like, really get into what is attractive to them about the military. Because you need to know, are they just spitting out lines that the recruiter said to them, which has happened to a lot of us, or is it that they really want that depth of meaning in their life, right? And if that's the case, if you have a young person in front of you searching for meaning in their life, please don't blow it off. Look at what the military can do, the United States military can do on so many positive levels for growth and aspiration. We don't all join because of this amazing patriotic reason that a lot of people think we join, but there are some of us that really do have that bug. And so I would definitely say dig deeper and listen, absolutely listen to their answers, and you might be surprised at what they're saying. Now, opposite of that, I have a son who's 16 right now, and the military is the last place that he wants to go. And he's, got some relationship, parental issues associated with that.
Right. Yeah. Mom went. I am not doing that, Joe. This kind of cycles back to what we started with a bit, which is there are so many opportunities. Not everybody's at the pointy end of the sphere. So if you want to be a computer programmer, you want to be in accounting, you want a mechanic, you want to fly drones, there's all kinds of support logistics roles that, again, Hollywood doesn't portray, but is so important. I think, again, those are great conversations. As you say, you have to dig in and understand what your child might be thinking about. Well, Shelly, tell folks you've mentioned a number of them, but let's wrap it up with, tell folks where they can find out more about what you're doing.
Absolutely. So the podcast, if you're a podcast listener, Hardcore and At Ease, Shelly Rood, Hardcore and At Ease. And if you want to get with me, go to join.othersoverself.com, and that is my inner circle. You can start messaging me and my team right away. That's join.othersoverself.com.
Well, we appreciate you once again coming on Veterans Radio and updating us on things that you're doing, and we're going to have some more conversations about how we can continue to work together. Shelly, thanks for your time today.
It's my honor, Jim.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org. We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. Legal Help for Veterans, a veterans disability law firm with a national practice before the VA, can help you on your claims and your appeals. It can be reached at legalhelpforveterans.com or 1-800-693-4800. We also want to thank our local sponsors. This would include the Charles S. Kettles chapter of the Vietnam Veterans of America, that's Chapter 310, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423, the American Legion Irwin Preskin Post 46 in Ann Arbor as well, the VA Ann Arbor Healthcare System, and certainly the National Vietnam Veterans of America Association. You can be a sponsor by going to veteransradio.org, clicking on the About Us and our sponsors, and help us out. Keep this program alive for the 21 and 22 years. Keep us going for another 20. Thank you.